It was just used as a racial item to attach to a group of people to throw them the hell out of the country. Now, doesn't this sound familiar when we bring it forward to 2020? It's almost as if we are reliving history, and in many ways we are. So, that's how your marijuana became illegal in the United States. Once again, not because it caused society any harm. It was no threat to children. It wasn't, it had nothing to do with harming people. But again, the harm that this country placed on a group of people they associated with a drug, or in this case, a plant, marijuana. So that's how marijuana became an illegal substance in the United States. Now let's move that forward up to about 1972. Richard Nixon brought the Controlled Substance Act into play. Also brought in the DEA. Before Nixon, there was no DEA. Do your homework, fact check. Before Nixon, there was no DEA. Now, through these policy changes and legislative actions, what we witnessed was a group of politicians using a drug to criminalize a group of people. And in this case, the scheduling of marijuana under the Controlled Substance Act, which placed it in Schedule 1, which means it has no medicinal value, it has no redeeming properties, and it shows very, very high chances of addiction. And anyone that knows anything about cannabis it's not an addictive drug. Give me a break. You know, it's not if you don't get it, you just don't have it. You might be pissed off because you don't have it, but your body's not going to react. You're not going to have sweats and chills and all these bad things that happen through drug addictions. So again, these laws that made marijuana illegal were shoehorned through legislation, used as a racial issue to get groups of people out of the country. Now, after 1972, and for those who have seen that famous speech on YouTube, Nixon declared what was called the war on drugs. The war on drugs, and it really came down to a war on people who use drugs. Because if you stop and think for one moment, despite the billions and billions of dollars this country spends fighting illicit drugs, drugs are more readily available today than ever. So the folks that use drugs generally don't have a passport to bring it into the country. They don't have planes, boats, and so on. So the war on drugs is more a war on people who use drugs. Now, mind you, illicit drugs, real bad drugs, there needs to be some action taken, but it should not be punitive. If it's any type of action taken, it should be considered as a health issue, and people who have addictions need some type of health service, not incarceration, not punishment. So what happens in that case? You punish the innocent to protect the well-to-do, so to speak. You're listening to Smokey Joe's Plum Street Jazz Cafe, the best of jazz culture, WJZZ Cool TV. And remember, you can find us on Facebook, and at the top of the social media platforms. Like us, share us, and enjoy us. And tune in to WJZZDetroitRadio.com. Once again, WJZZDetroitRadio.com. Okay, our listener line, WJZZ 313-355-6018. Call in with your questions or comments, or if you want to discuss this cannabis thing, let's get into it, folks. So let's move forward into, now that we've understood how marijuana became illegal in America and why it was made illegal in America, the question comes, we have to ask ourselves this: why, after all this time, marijuana still sits on what's called the Schedule 1 list? After repeated attempts to remove marijuana from the schedule list, it has not come to pass, not yet. However, there has been some recent uptick in the support of marijuana all across the United States. In fact, when surveyed, almost 80% of Americans agree on medical or the medicinal use of marijuana. And about 70% almost agree on the use of recreational marijuana. Now, here's a little tidbit on scheduling and these numbers of what it means. In the Controlled Substance Act, they were smart enough when they wrote this act to include a provision. And that provision says to the point, if at any time in the future public opinion or medical evidence changes to support these items on the schedule list, Congress, listen to this, not the DEA, Congress has the right to remove that scheduling or deschedule, meaning that you move it from 1 to 3 and eventually off the scheduling list. Now, Congress, our current Congress has already passed some legislation relative to that. However, the Senate is always going to be the sticking point, folks. For some weird reason, they're just holding back this marijuana discussion to a point where sometimes they may not even want to talk about it. But again, there has been some legislative action on the House side to move marijuana into the realm of a non-scheduled drug. So again, look at your politicians, those you're going to be voting for. These are some major, major issues that we can no longer kick down the road. Every generation, it just moves down the road, further down the road. So if we in this current generation can't get this thing right, I would hate to see what it would be like for our kids, the next generation, and so on and so forth, where they're going to have to deal with this marijuana issue. Folks, I suggest we get this thing to bed, get it done, move forward, because there are many, many other issues that we need to address. But letting marijuana staying on the scheduling list is a very, very bad thing. Now, many folks have issues concerning marijuana from a, how can I say, they don't want to look like they're agreeing with crime. And let me point to this subject. If the state makes it a legal substance and the voters approve legal use in whichever form, medical, recreational, then how could it be viewed as a very bad thing when folks exercise their democratic rights and go out and vote for these things, and these things are placed on ballots, ballots are approved, and it happens. So, as I said in the beginning of the show, we're going to have to deal with this marijuana thing one way or another. And it's best to get it out of the way now so we can move on to bigger and more important subjects. You're listening to Smokey Joe here at Smokey Joe's Plum Street Jazz Cafe. We're broadcasting from the beautiful uptown Detroit studios here in Ralston Village, WJZZ Jazz Radio, and WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest jazz station on the planet. That's right, folks. We make that claim. For our listeners out there, if you want to call in, WJZZ 313-355-6018. Okay, I believe we have a caller on the line here. Caller, go ahead with your question or comment. Okay, we seem to be experiencing a little technical difficulty, as we like to call it. So while we're waiting on our caller line to pop up, let's get back into this discussion about marijuana. And let's look at the arrest rates, first of all, when we come to this discussion. You know, marijuana has become the drug of choice for state and local police departments nationwide. Again, between 2001 and 2010, there were 8,244,943 marijuana arrests. Marijuana arrests, of which 7,295,000 of those, or almost 88%, were for marijuana possession. In 2010 alone, there were 889,000, marijuana arrests, and 300,000 more arrests than all other violent crimes. And again, it kind of makes one wonder, how does law enforcement spend their time? Going after the low-hanging fruit, marijuana, or looking for those real tough crimes that are hard to solve? And besides, in most law enforcement groups, the overtime happens when you have all these drug arrests. You get the overtime, you get the overtime pay, and at the end of the month, you might have 30, 40 arrests. And if you're looking for a promotion, well, that officer getting the higher arrest numbers is probably going to make sergeant before the other guy who might only get 1 or 2 arrests, chasing some serious crimes.
Smokey Joe.
Hey, how you doing? Our caller is back online here. Go ahead with your comment or question.
Yeah, I asked you the first time before we got disconnected. Can you please explain the difference between the micro grow and the regular medical grow? What is best for the little guy entrepreneur?
Yes. The micro grow falls under the category of the recreational or adult use licensing. And I just explained on our show last week that the micro grow, if you're what we call the small mom and pop shop, you don't have the big bucks to jump into the game. You don't have all the background required by the state to get into the game. There is a place for you in the micro grow. And the micro grow license allows you to grow up to 150 plants. And the great part about the micro grow under the rec program is that you get to grow, process your own cannabis, and you can sell that cannabis under the micro program. Under the medical program now, it's a little different. Even though it's much older, came in 2008, under the medical program, a patient registers with the state with a qualifying condition, and you as a patient are allowed to grow or possess up to 12 plants. Or you can assign that to what's called a caregiver, and the caregiver can have up to 5 patients. When you add that all up, you have the 5 patients, 12 plants each, plus the caregiver's 12 plants, you come up with 72 plants. So that's the difference in the two. Now, under the medical program, that cannabis, what's called overages, in other words, you wind up, 10, 15 pounds of cannabis, you can't sell it. There was a time when you could sell that to the dispensaries, but that time is come and gone. So the safe bet, if you want to get into the business and you're looking to get into the business, regulated business, and you want to make money, it's going to be the micro business side. Plus, it opens up the door for many other opportunities under the social equity program, which doesn't exist under the medical program. I hope that answers your question. Okay, caller. Okay, so hope that information got out. Again, we like to share information here. If you have questions or comments or concerns, just give us a call here at WJZZ 313-355-6018. That number again, 313-355-6018. You're listening to Smokey Joe here at Smokey Joe's Plum Street Jazz Cafe, broadcasting from the beautiful uptown Detroit studio here in the Ralston Village. And remember, every Sunday from 3 to 9, 19730 Ralston, the Backyard Boogie. That's right. Come on and join us at the Backyard Boogie, the place where all the lovely ladies like to stop by. We have live band, open mic, and a live DJ. We also have a grill and a bar. Donations are welcome, of course. This is a free event. All are welcome, but please bring your mask We do have sanitizer, hand sanitizers on site available, and we do practice social distancing. So come on, stop by. Remember, it's the BYOB, so bring your own libations.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, I have another caller out there.
My name is Tasha, and I was wanting to know, does the micro grow laws apply to someone wanting to grow in their home location like
Yes,
that?
well, the answer to the question is yes, you can, but realistically, you probably would not want to. You would probably want to have a site where you can conduct that activity because under the regulated market, you will have to apply to whatever community you live in to have your establishment inspected and certified so they know that it is safe for you to do what you do. So at home, it almost comes back to the caregiver model, but under the recreation model, you still can have 12 plants for an adult over the age of 21. However, keep in mind, it's not the number of adults, and I get this question all the time. If there's 5 adults that live in one house, that means each of the 5 can have 12 plants under the rec. No, no, no. It's only at that one location. So, again, with the micro, you might want to consider a location, have that location certified by the municipality that you're in, meaning that you have permission to be where you are and to conduct that business. And if you are a person of color or someone from one of the 19 communities that has been targeted for social equity programs, there are some big, big dollar savings out there for you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. That's a whole lot of information, and it seems pretty valid. And on top of that, can you also explain what your credentials and expertise are, and maybe your contact info?
Sure. You can reach us here at the station, and you can I don't have a call-in number, but I can give you that off air, if you will. I can just text it over to you or send you my email. But I have been growing cannabis for since 2009. My background's environmental science, and what I bring to the cannabis discussion is science and environmental safety as it relates to growing cannabis indoors, meaning that I look at the environmental concerns of where these plants are going to be grown, make the best environmental upgrades and changes so you can produce a quality, high quality product that's free of bugs and free of contamination.
Oh, wonderful. Wow, that's very interesting. And I appreciate you with that information. It's probably the most information I've received in quite a while.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you for calling in and keep listening.
Again, if you could find that phone number, that'd be great. And I'll, and again, get that contact info out there, and then get some folks calling you, too.
Okay, I sure
You have a
will.
good one.
All right, thank you so much.
Bye.
Okay, you can watch us on YouTube as well, live and on demand, 313-355-6018. Invite all to like and share our show. Okay, folks, let's get back to the ACLU report and what's going on with this marijuana thing. You know, the war on marijuana has quite simply served as a vehicle for many police to target communities of color. Now, first of all, let me be clear on this. I'm not against any policing. In fact, it would be a nightmare to live in an environment that did not have law enforcement. And for those that are against law enforcement, try living in a society where that doesn't exist. You'll quickly change your mind. We do know there are some bad cops out there, but by and large, most are not. So please, this is not a slam on police officers. You guys have a hell of a job you're doing. You have a hard job, but make sure you are fair in your policing. And when it comes to communities of color, that has not always taken place. Why do you think there are so many people out in the streets all around this country, and not only around the country, but around the world, that are crying out for social justice, for people of color and those that have been persecuted just because of the complexion of your skin. Just because of the complexion of your skin. Let me give you a scenario here. And I've heard this over and over again when I talk to young people. Three young men riding in a car. And all of a sudden they get what young folks call flicked. Now, three in a car is really not a cause for being a traffic stop. However, broken tail light, expired tags, tinted windows where no one can see inside the vehicle, erratic driving, changing lanes without signaling. These are called pretexts. Even weaving in and out of a lane, if you're not paying attention, reach over to change the radio and you weave outside of your lane, you can be pulled over, and that's what's called a pretext. In other words, you gave me a reason to pull you over. Now, after investigating, oh my God, smells like marijuana in here. Get out of the car. Hands up, and it starts there. And generally, you know how it ends up. So don't allow yourself to become a target. Driving with expired tags, sometimes no tags at all, broken tail lights, inoperative tag lights. That's right, folks. Inoperative tag lights, those little lights over your tags. You can be pulled over if that license plate is not illuminated at night. And some folks will say, oh, they're picking on me. No, look at the laws that you are causing an infraction on, and you give them cause to pull you over. So I just want to be clear on that. It's not all about them. This is a 50-50, sometimes 50-50 if it was fair and balanced, but don't give them a reason to pull you over. And if you do have cannabis, why don't you leave it at home? Having it in the trunk of the car, riding around with excessive amounts, it makes no sense. Now, if you're going from point A to point B, and that's as far as you're going, and you do decide to transport, your ounces you're legally able to carry that 1 ounce. But when you start getting into overages and having too much stuff, it's just, it's a nightmare. So I believe we have another caller on the line here, WJZZ, Cool Jazz TV. Go ahead, caller.
Hi. I wanted to know explain to us the microbrew thing again, because you're saying that you can have 12 plants, but you can assign it to 5 different people or a caretaker, and that caretaker will be responsible for those 12 plants plus however many other people you're caretaking. Can you please explain that again?
Right. We're talking about two different things again. The micro grow, anytime that term is used, it's under another law and set of rules called adult use. That was the law that came in, and we got our freedom in November of last year. The medical side, however, was a 2008 law that came into effect, which allows a patient, and remember, you have to be a patient, meaning that you have a qualifying condition. You get your medical marijuana card after you have the doctor's visit. Laura issues that card, and it allows you to have up to 12 plants. But you can assign those 12 plants to what's called a caregiver. And again, that caregiver can have up to 5 patients, 12 plants each, plus that caregiver's 12 plants, which gives you a total of 72. So that's a completely different set of rules relative to the adult use market, and that's where the micro business lies, in the adult use side or the recreational side of the marijuana. Okay, caller, you still there? Okay, then. So I hope that answered that question. And again, folks, the medical laws and the adult use laws, study those. Go online, look it up. Laura has a complete website of all the laws, the rules that apply to those laws, and also which communities have opted out, which communities have opted in, so on and so forth. But the information is available free to you online at the Laura website. And Laura is for the Licensing and Regulatory Agency for the state of Michigan. And they have a complete site set aside for marijuana and all things relative to marijuana and cannabis in Michigan. You're listening to Smokey Joe here at Smokey Joe's Plum Street Jazz Cafe in the beautiful Uptown Studios here in Ralston Village in Uptown Detroit. WJZZ Cool TV. And also, look at our podcast and check us out on Facebook. Like us and share. We're on several social media platforms. Like us and share us. And remember, every Sunday from 3 to 9, 19730 Ralston, the Backyard Boogie. That's right, live band, open mic, DJ, live DJ jam session, grill and bar. Donations are accepted. And also, it's a free event. It's open to the public, so folks, come on out. We encourage you to wear your mask. We practice social distancing here, so don't bring a big crowd with you, but bring enough folks. This is a place where all the lovely ladies like to stop on Sunday. So, fellas, if you're not doing anything, besides the game's not on, so, hey, come on down. Spend some time with us here at 19730 Ralston. That's 3 to 9 on Sundays, the Backyard Boogie. BYOB, bring your own libations. Okay, let's get back into this ACLU report concerning the war on drugs and more importantly, the war on marijuana in black and white. Now, moving back to this war on drugs again and how marijuana is related to that and why marijuana became illegal and why so many people today still are under the impression of what was called reefer madness of the 1950s. And if you want to look up that movie, it's online. It's funny as hell. It's called Reefer Madness. You can look at it on YouTube and get all the laughs you want. Even if you are totally against marijuana, I can guarantee you, you'll laugh your butt off when you see this thing. But this is what the propaganda that was posted back in the 50s to scare this new and emerging non-conforming youth that were coming up in those days, the rebellious youth, as they called it. So to scare them away from the marijuana, this propaganda film was put together called Reefer Madness. So again, if you want to have a good laugh, regardless of what side of the discussion you're on with marijuana, just go ahead and take a good look. Again, it's on YouTube, and I'm sure you will find it hilarious as hell. Even more funny than the Cheech and Chong movies, which we're going to get into in our next broadcast. Again, you're listening to Smokey Joe here at Smokey Joe's Plum Street Jazz Cafe in the beautiful studios in Ralston Village here in Uptown Detroit. WJZZ Cool Jazz Radio, WJZZ Cool TV, the best of jazz culture. So, back to this report from the ACLU. And folks, if you want to look at this report in its entirety, you can go online, download it, and read it for yourself. It's called the ACLU War on Marijuana in Black and White. And it's a hell of a document. And it explains and describes in complete detail as to how this country has shaped marijuana and then put those that use it in a certain category. And even now, there are some published reports that are coming out that are associating the use of marijuana smoking in pregnant women as it was related to crack cocaine back in the 80s in pregnant women. Again, some more fear mongers out there, and I'm not suggesting that if you're pregnant to consume cannabis. That's not for me to say. However, this report that someone is publishing to compare marijuana and pregnancy to crack cocaine use in pregnancy is just complete nonsense. One thing has nothing to do with the other except the fact that a woman may be pregnant. But the drug itself, again, many medicinal purposes are associated with marijuana. And in the hard drugs, crack cocaine, we don't even need to talk about what that did to our community. And for those that survived those years of the crack epidemic, you know what I'm talking about, especially if you lived here in the city of Detroit. East side, west side, north end. Didn't matter which side of town you lived on, it was here, and it was heavy. So again, this is another report online. You can look it up for yourself. You be the judge of that information and decide for yourself. I don't want to be that decision maker for you, but again, I want to give you some good information evidence-based information, and you decide for yourself. Now, looking back at some more of the ACLU reports here, I mean, it's just staggering at the amount of money and the time law enforcement spends chasing a plant. And again, for the 45 plus years that this war on drugs has been going on, which has cost this country an upwards to $1 trillion by now, if you just fact check some of your information. And even today, marijuana is stronger than it was back in the day. So this war on drugs is a needless, it's a useless and baseless tactic to target certain communities to become criminals. And the way that you become a criminal is, again, to allow a pretext to happen, and you're driving dirty, and all of a sudden, you find yourself caught up in a situation. Don't let that happen, folks. We live in a legal state. You don't have to run and hide anymore, but make sure you don't have excess marijuana with you, on you, around you, or near you. Read the rules, read the laws, and see what it says. You can have some in your possession, but 2 pounds in the trunk of your car is not personal use. Come on, folks, give me a break. And you can go down to 36th District Court and any other court around here, and you're going to see these cases, people coming in like meat and sausage factory, bam, 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 one case after another. And in most instances, a person is going to have to take a plea bargain. So that plea bargain, I don't want to get into that side of law enforcement, but you know how this usually ends, folks. If you've been around my city long enough, you know how this thing usually turns out for us. It doesn't work out in our favor. So, moving back to the discussion that I've had with a couple of callers, and I see many people are interested in this micro business. So let me just jump a little bit back onto the micro side again as we wrap up our show here at the beautiful studios in Uptown Detroit. Make sure, as we go through this marijuana process, that you use common sense and judgment. Make sure you understand the rules, and also make sure that there is a place for you in this market, and it doesn't have to be cannabis touching. There's a side called the ancillary market, which has over 110 business opportunities. That's right. So if you have had a checkered past, most of these businesses, it will not matter. And the startup is so low. Some of these small businesses, you can start up with as little as $5,000 right on your kitchen table. Start making labels. These dispensaries have to buy state-approved information, and you can become a provider just for the labels that go on the jars. Something as simple as that. So, folks, it's not all about touching marijuana to make money in this game. And remember, look at the rules. You don't have to take my word for it, but I love to share this information because I'm sick and tired of seeing folks look like me being persecuted while other folks come into my community and walk away with a boatload. And the next summer you see their kids driving those cars that your hard-earned dollars spent, but your kids are still riding a bus. Come on. We have to circle the wagons, look into the social equity side of this discussion, look into the micro business side of this discussion, line yourself up with someone who may consider a consumption establishment or a marijuana lounge, and line yourself up with someone who will get what's called an event planner's license. All this information is available to you, the taxpayers, your hard-earned dollars, that you can just go right on the LARA website, LARA.gov. That stands for Licensing and Regulatory Agency. They have a complete site set up just for the marijuana discussion. So, we're about to wrap our show up here at WJZZ Studios. We have about 2 minutes left on the clock. If there are any other callers out there, give us a call here, 313-355 6018. Again, that's 355 6018. And lastly, remember every Sunday, 3 to 9 p.m., 19730 Ralston. We're right here at the Backyard Boogie. That's right, the Backyard Boogie. Live band, open mic jam session, live DJ. Grill, bar, donations accepted. And bring your, BYOB. And again, we practice social distancing. Please wear your mask. We have hand sanitizer available on site. This is your host, Smokey Joe, with Smokey Joe's Plum Street Jazz Cafe. Just enjoying this Friday evening, this good weather, and just enjoying life. And folks, take time, sit back, relax, put your feet up, and chill, because we need some me time. All of us need some me time. And now is the time to take advantage of that. So, folks, stay tuned. We'll have more information for you next week. And as these laws open up, and as the what I call an embargo against cannabis businesses in Detroit, once that embargo is lifted, I'll have plenty of information for you, and also share some lively topics about a free cannabis training program that's going to be coming to the city of Detroit. And this is only, and I'm going to say this is only for the residents of the city of Detroit, a free training program on the issue of cannabis, how to grow, what's safe for you to use, and just all things cannabis is what we like to call it. And this will be a free program.